Are the slides up? Hello, it's now 2 p.m. Eastern Time. You have joined the Second Chance Act Grantee Orientation webinar, hosted by the National Reentry Resource Center and the Bureau of Justice Assistance. Thank you for joining the webinar. My name is Nicole Jarrett, the Deputy Program Director at the Council of State Governments Justice Center and the moderator for today's event. Before turning the webinar over to our featured speakers, I'd like to briefly talk through some of the house-cleaning items about how the webinar will work. Anytime during this webinar, you can ask a question by typing it into the Q&A panel on the bottom right-hand portion of your screen. We will keep a running list of the content-related questions that we receive and then respond to the questions during the last segment of the webinar. We will do our best to get through as many questions as possible. But if your question isn't answered during the Q&A, please follow up with an email to either the Justice Center, the National Resource Center, or your BJA Program Manager or Policy Advisor. If you encounter technical or audio problems during this webinar, please call WebEx Technical Support at 1-866-229-3239. Please understand that there are some technical issues we may not be able to resolve. For this reason, we are recording this event and we'll post it on our website at csgjusticecenter.org. We should have the webinar posted online early next week, and once it's been posted, we will email you a link to the recording. I'm joined today by a fantastic group of speakers. From the Bureau of Justice Assistance, Maria Fryer, Policy Advisor of Corrections, Ania Dobransky, a State Policy Advisor, Jennifer L. Lewis, another State Policy Advisor, Zafra Stork, State Policy Advisor, and Tracy Willis, State Policy Advisor. At the Council of State Governments Justice Center, Stefan Labuglio, the Director of the National Reentry Resource Center, myself, as well as we'll be joined by Dr. Daniel Price from CSR. We'll open up the presentation with a welcome and congratulations from our funder, BJA, and then we'll move on to a brief description of the National Reentry Resource Center and the support and the resources available to you through your technical assistance provider. And then we'll spend a large portion of this program talking about the post-award grant management and federal compliance matters, including PMT reporting. And then we'll wrap up with a Q&A session. With that, I will turn this over to Maria Fryer. Maria?
Thanks, Nicole. Hi, and good afternoon. On behalf of the Bureau of Justice Assistance, I would like to congratulate and welcome you as a grantee to this orientation webinar. My name is Maria Fryer, and I am a policy advisor with the Justice Systems team overseeing the Second Chance Act for adults with co-occurring disorders, as well as the Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program. Audrey Bethea and Julie James are also Second Chance Act policy advisors, and you will hear from the BJA Program Office a little bit later. BJA's mission is to provide leadership and services in grant administration and criminal justice policy development to support local, state, and tribal justice strategies to achieve safer communities. You are part of that mission, and once again, congratulations to the new Second Chance Act grantees. $53 million in grants will be awarded to 45 jurisdictions under the Second Chance Act program in fiscal year 2015, including this year's cohort of grantees. More than 700 Second Chance Act grants have been awarded to agencies and organizations in 49 states. As recipients of this award, you each share a common goal to effectively serve people returning from jails and prisons and develop and promote positive system-wide changes alongside many other professionals across the nation. So let's cover expectations. Our expectations of you. Since each program was reviewed and selected based on criteria that uniquely qualified them as most competitive, I want to lay out some very specific expectations that we have of you. We expect that you will serve the number of people you proposed within your application, that you will use evidence-based risk and needs assessment instruments to accomplish this. Incorporate evidence-based practices, interventions into your services and approaches. That you will seek help when help is needed and communicate regularly with your technical assistance coaches and BJA staff, to include your program manager or your policy advisor. So what are your expectations of us? Both the program staff and the policy staff will be responsive to your inquiries as they arise, whether they are technical about allowable uses of funds, changes in key staff, requesting no-cost extensions, or whether they are regarding key changes at state, county, or local level that you foresee potentially impacting your program. So in closing, here at BJA, we are a small staff dedicated to translating best and promising practices into quality policies and programs for the criminal justice field. We are here to help you as recipients of this award. Lockstep with our mission, you each share a common goal to effectively serve people re-entering your local jurisdictions and to create positive change for previously incarcerated people, whether their daily challenge is mental illness, employment, housing, family, or other challenges. We're here with you alongside your professional colleagues, as I mentioned, across the nation. As for me, I'm happy to be here at BJA working with you over the next few years as just a piece of the innovative work that you are doing to change reentry for the better. Your programs and policies are giving us data that we need and direction, and I look forward to working and learning from you in this endeavor. And finally, remember that we provide quality technical assistance through the National Reentry Resource Center. And I'll hand the presentation over to Stefan Labuglio to discuss the resources and support available through the NRRC. Thank you so much. Stefan?
Good colleagues, after 2 decades of working for jail systems, I joined the Justice Center last month as the Director of Corrections and Reentry. And I proudly oversee the National Reentry Resource Center and get to work with a terrific and capable staff, and we are all here to serve you. My own correctional experience includes receiving and managing 2 Second Chance Act grants. I know firsthand the range of emotions that you may be experiencing, from exhilaration to feeling overwhelmed and asking yourself, what have I gotten myself into? Well, I am pleased to share with you that you are not alone, and that the National Reentry Resource Center exists precisely to assist you take your great ideas, put them into action, evaluate outcomes, and refine them to optimize effectiveness. We are invested in your success. We want to assist you in every way possible to achieve your goals, and then to celebrate and to share your successes and learning with the field. In a real sense, each of the 51 programs represented are at the front lines of advancing reentry practice in this country, and we stand with you. This was all made possible by the bipartisan landmark legislation called the Second Chance Act of 2007. This legislation, as Ms. Fryer indicated, has funded nearly 700 programs to the tune of $500 million. And we have learned a lot in our field about what works, how to best reduce recidivism, how do we improve public safety, and how do we strengthen families and communities. Besides funding programs directly, the Second Chance Act made possible the National Reentry Resource Center. Under contract and in partnership with BJA, the Council of State Governments set up and has been running the NRRC since 2009. So what is the NRRC? Well, we have a threefold mission, and the top and our greatest priority is providing technical assistance to grant programs. Implementing a program is hard work and fraught with challenges. The NRRC provides individualized, intensive, and targeted technical assistance, training, and distant learning to support our grantees. We have worked with over 600 grantees in almost every state of the nation, including some U.S. territories, Guam being part of that, and including 40 state correctional agencies. In our 6 years of work, we have accumulated a wealth of experience that we want to share with you. We work with programs that have struggled through huge organizational changes and technical challenges. I say this to encourage you to reach out and share with us how best to help you. While every program and jurisdiction is unique, we feel we can bring the knowledge of what has worked in other jurisdictions to your program. Our second priority is to advance knowledge and effective practices to move our field forward. Let me click here to make that happen. We have engaged private sector leaders on improving employment opportunities. We have launched a national initiative called Stepping Up to help counties and jails address mental health illness. The NRRC is working with policymakers to help juvenile justice agencies achieve better outcomes for youth in custody. And we're dealing with a variety of other reentry topics ranging from housing, risk assessment, sex offender programming, and much more. Third, we have developed a premier clearinghouse of resources in reentry. The National Reentry Resource Center houses the What Works in Reentry Clearinghouse to provide a one-stop shop for research on the effectiveness on a wide range of reentry programs and practices. We house an online library of publications. While you can Google as well as us, we have spent the time and effort in developing an organized website that should provide a great assistance to you in advancing your programs. Let me take you through the website. On this slide, please note the yellow circle on subscribe. We encourage you, we implore you, we exhort you to hit that button and subscribe to our newsletters. We have a newsletter on reentry. We also have a newsletter on mental health. And there are other topic areas of justice reinvestment and juvenile justice. But by subscribing to our newsletter, you will get a monthly update on funding opportunities, on recent publications, on recent news stories. It's our attempt to encapsulate the best learning and publications for your benefits. Our site can be accessed through csgjusticereenter.org/NRRC. Under issue pages, you will find the many issues we deal with. Under the slide that's up right now, you will see that under resources, we have developed a training library. We have distance learning opportunities and webinars available to you. Also under resources, you will see the latest publications that we have picked up through our news clipping services and through our own experience in the field. This is where we post them. Please come and take a look. Next slide. And as I mentioned before, we have worked closely with our partner at the Urban Institute to really help summarize the research about what works in reentry in a number of issue areas that you see in the right upper hand window. And finally, we post stories, success stories of our grantees. This is where we want to work most closely with you. We want to hear your stories. We want to celebrate your successes. What an exciting time for us. As we speak in this seminar, President Obama is speaking on criminal justice reform. We have recent bipartisan legislation. Whether or not you fully appreciate it, yes, you have received an award, but you've also signed up to be an agent of change. And we look forward to working together with you to help build a solid infrastructure of reentry for our country. Now to you, Dr. Jarrett.
Thank you, Stephan. That was great. We are really excited here at the National Reentry Resource Center. And our role as a technical assistance provider we take very seriously, and that really can be broken down into 3 different areas. First, we work very closely with each one of the grantees to help them achieve the goals of their grant. And so we want to come alongside you, help provide any recommendations for publications and online resources, connect you to subject matter experts, as well as to your peers. And we'll talk about an opportunity to do that in a moment. We also are very committed to driving the field forward. We understand that many of the things that you all are doing are paving and treading new ground, and so we want to make sure that we are doing our best to come alongside you in that and share evidence-based practices and also promising approaches, what we've learned from providing technical assistance over the past several years. And we also work very closely with BJA. We want to make sure that all of you are aware of the grant management, performance measure, and other BJA requirements. And we also provide timely information on successful and innovative work that you are conducting. We have a very busy season upon us. Your technical assistance providers will be reaching out to you to set up your initial TA calls between now and the month of November. And you'll also receive invitations for a grant program specific webinar. So there will be a webinar specific to mentoring, to statewide recidivism reduction, to smart supervision. And during those webinars, you'll have a chance to meet your TA team and talk through the expectations of your grant program. Between November and December, you'll be receiving your planning and implementation guide, and we've used that guide as a tool for you to really work through the planning period of your project. We know that you have high goals and that you want to achieve in a very short period of time, and by walking step by step with you during that planning period, we find that to be a very effective way to go about that process. And so your TA provider will introduce that to you. And then in December, we are very excited to announce the SCA conference, and we look forward to meeting each and every one of you. The conference will take place in D.C. December 16th through the 18th. And all the grantees are expected to send at least 2 to 3 representatives. We do find that grantees often want to send more than that, and you're welcome to do so. We have grantees or former grantees seeking to attend this conference as well. The reason why is because the conference provides an excellent opportunity for networking with peers from around the country and learning from researchers, policymakers, and practitioners who have experience in the design and implementation of effective reentry initiatives. Conference sessions will address a variety of topics that can help jurisdictions match participants to their programs with evidence-based interventions, ways to maximize available resources, and ways to measure and communicate outcomes. If you have any additional questions about the conference, you can reach out to the National Reentry Resource Center. We're happy to walk through the agenda with you and speak about how you can get the most out of this conference by planning ahead. With that, I will turn this over to BJA, to Zafra Stork. Zafra?
Yes, hi. Thank you, Nicole. This is Zafra Stork, and this afternoon I'll be starting the BJA section of the presentation, and I'm joined by my fellow colleagues and Second Chance Act State Policy Advisors, Anya Duranska, Jennifer Lewis, and Tracy Willis. And we're going to cover a lot of information related to managing your grants, and we want you to know that there is support as well as lots of resources for you. We're going to talk about award acceptance, special conditions, report submission, Federal Funding, Accountability, and Transparency Act, FFATA, financial information, unallowable costs, grant payments, grant adjustment notices, also known as GANs, grant monitoring, grant closeout, and additional information such as resources. We've also provided in RRC a fact sheet that covers the frequently asked questions. And again, your state policy advisors are here for you to assist you if you do have questions on any of these topics. One of the first things that you'll do is accept your award, and you need to assign a financial point of contact in GMS. Related to doing that, it's really important that you continue to frequently update contacts if information changes, because we don't want you to miss out on information because we sent the information to the wrong person. Your organization should also ensure that the authorized rep signs and dates the award letter and initializes the special condition pages. You should email the documents or fax them to the number provided. You, in turn, will receive a packet containing the grant ID, PIN number, and information about assessing funds through the grant payment request system. Okay, this slide is just a picture of the award document that you should be familiar with. And as you can see at the bottom, there's a section for the authorized representative to sign. If that person has changed, you would need to put in a GAN or a grant adjustment notice to change the authorized rep before you sign the new name. I'm also going to talk next about special conditions. Special conditions are terms and conditions of the award. All awards include standard special conditions. Some special conditions are program-specific, and certain special conditions may be added specifically to an individual award based on the review of the application and if it was determined that additional information was needed. This next slide will cover special conditions, and you'll get to see what it looks like, your special conditions look like in your award document, and they have numbers. So when you would talk to your state policy advisor, you want to reference a number of a certain special condition. All awards will include standard special conditions concerning compliance with OJP Financial Guide, the use of federal funds, audit requirements, the Anti-Lobbying Act, civil rights, equal employment opportunity plan, reporting potential fraud, waste, and abuse. There are also withholding special conditions, and these conditions place holds on funds for overdue reports, pending budget approval, and any other documentation that was either missing or insufficient when the grant application was reviewed. There are different types of withholding special conditions. Some of them are related to planning documents, like was mentioned before. With some SCA awards, they include special conditions that limit spending until required documents are submitted, such as the Planning and Implementation Guide for co-occurring and adult demonstration awards and the Smart Supervision Action Plan for Smart Supervision awards. And many of your awards also have a special withholding condition related to your budget clearance. This limits expenditures or drawdowns until your budget has final approval or clearance. This year, we did add an exclusion to that allows grantees to draw down or expend up to $15,000 for travel-related expenses to come to the Second Chance Act conference here in D.C. in December. That would cover your transportation, your lodging, or per diem. This exclusion only covers the conditional budget clearance. So if you have other active special conditions that are withholding, you need to work with your state policy advisor because you will not be able to expend funds even for conference-related travel. I'm now going to pass over the presentation to Anya, who's going to cover reporting requirements.
Thank you, Zafra. My name is Anya, and I'm a state policy advisor for the Northeastern region. In the next slides, I would like to emphasize the importance of compliance with reporting requirements. Here, advanced planning is essential. Please take the time to know what to report, how, where, and when. You'll be submitting your report in Grants Management System, GMS, and Performance Measurement Tool website, PMT. Keep in mind that a progress report is the primary vehicle through which your activities and outcomes are documented. It is a record of progress towards meeting your goals. Make sure that you have a sound data collection system in place to collect all the necessary data to prevent any potential future setbacks when critical data is missing. Please make sure to submit all your reports on time. When you are overdue with a GMS financial status or progress report, GMS will automatically freeze your funds. Once the overdue report is submitted, GMS will release the hold. If you have a problem with the submission of any report and need additional time, please contact your state policy advisor. A submitted report may be returned to you for corrections without creating a delinquent audit trail. Financial status reports must be submitted in GMS by your financial point of contact, also known as SPOC, on a quarterly basis. Once you accept your award, you are responsible to submit your reports, even if you do not draw down any funds. For questions regarding your financial reports, please contact OCFO Customer Service. Here are some important reminders for submitting your financial report. Please make sure that you report actual funds spent. You should have a solid accounting system in place and track all program-specific activities separate from others. This may be done through appropriate coding. All activity under the grant needs to be tracked and properly documented. Know which costs are allowable and exercise caution. All expenses must be reasonable and necessary to the project. You will submit the data in the PMT module on a quarterly basis. When a report is due in GMS, you will download the PMT report and upload the PDF file in GMS. Please make sure that you attach a correct PMT file and answer all the questions, paying extra attention to the narrative responses on your progress. If you need to make changes, please contact the PMT help desk and they will unlock the report for corrections. When you submit your report in GMS, it is reviewed by your state policy advisor. When corrections are needed, the report will be sent back for corrections. GMS will generate an automatic email to the POC or the point of contact in GMS, but you should check GMS periodically as well as your spam folder for important notices. Make sure that your contact information in GMS is correct. Final reports must include sufficient narrative responses to indicate which goals were met and if all the funds were expended. If your agency received more than $25,000 and you plan to subaward more than $25,000, then you will have to report those subawards in FSRS, the FATA Subaward Reporting System. You are required to file a subaward report by the end of the month, following the month in which the prime contractor awards any subcontract greater than $25,000. Once report is submitted, no other reports are required for that subaward, unless there are modifications to that subaward during its life cycle. Grant funds are accessed through the Grant Payment Request System, also known as GPRS. It is a web-based payment system that allows grant recipients to submit payment requests through the Internet. Individuals within your organization that are designated in GMS as the award's financial point of contact, FPOC, may register in GPRS. The FPOC is the only user that may access this application. Please review the GPRS user guide for additional information on how to access funds. Payment requests can be submitted at any time. However, if your award has a delinquent report, a hold will be placed on your account and you will not be able to submit a payment request. Once the outstanding report has been submitted, the hold will be removed from your account. You can request a payment for an individual award using the Create Payment Request form. The average time frame for a payment request to be processed and deposited is 2 to 3 business days. But keep in mind that OJP does not process payment requests during the last 4 business days of each month. Lastly, please keep in mind that all funds must be obligated and expended by the end of the grant period. This concludes my session of presentation, and now I'll turn this over to Tracy.
Policy Advisor. Hi everyone, this is Tracy Willis and I'm the State Policy Advisor for Second Chance Act Mentoring, and I'm going to be covering financial information. As recipients of your awards, you must agree to read and comply with the financial and administrative requirements set forth in the current edition of the OJP Financial Guide. As a suggestion, I would suggest that you go on that website and save it on your desktop, as well as print off a copy and have it on hand for that purpose. Please refer to your program guide, your award special conditions, and your approved budget. And make sure you have you get access to the Grants Financial Management online training. This is a 24-hour module training that emphasizes the basics of federal grant management, and the website is provided for you. Additional financial resources, again, is the OJP Financial Guide, the OMBS Uniform Guidance, and the OJP website often update frequently asked questions, and those websites are provided for you. Here is a list of unallowable costs as it relates to your grant: land acquisition, lobbying, fundraising, compensation and travel for federal employees, consultant rates above $650 a day without prior approval, bonuses or commissions, military-type equipment, corporate formation, costs incurred outside the project period, food and beverage, and program-specific unallowable costs. Again, in addition to the unallowable costs that were just mentioned, these following are more specific to your grant: prizes, rewards, entertainment, trinkets, or any type of monetary incentive is unallowable, client stipends, gift cards, vehicles, and costs that do not support the approved project activities. Next, when you're monitoring your subrecipient, these are key components that you must adhere to: a subaward agreement that specifies task and reporting requirements, a monitoring plan that is detailed in the subaward document and implemented by the direct recipient as planned, and for subrecipients with federal expenditures over $500,000 annually, compliance with the audit requirements. And something that you guys will definitely become familiar with is the grant adjustment notices, and these are notices about changing your specific areas of your program. Once OGP makes a decision regarding the proposed change, the grantee is notified in GMS through email. And as my colleagues have stated before, we need you to make sure that you give us correct email addresses so that you don't miss out on receiving information. The GANs are submitted through the GMS system, and listed below are types of GANs: budget modification, change of scope, change project period, change point of contact, removal of special condition, sole source, and cost requiring prior approval. GANs will not be approved if the grantee is delinquent on their financial or programmatic reporting. So that's, again, an incentive to make sure that you are up to date on all reporting requirements. Award recipients must verify their point of contact, their FPLC, and the authorized rep contact information in GMS, including telephone number and email addresses. And as a suggestion, I would suggest that you provide 3 different email addresses so that information can go to 3 different individuals to make sure that information is being submitted and given. If any information is incorrect or has changed, a grant adjustment notice must be submitted through the GMS system to document changes. Then there's the GAN for project period extension. Extensions are not to exceed 12 months past the original end date unless you have extraordinary circumstances. You must request through GMS no later than 45 days prior to the current end date. And when you submit a GAN for program extension, you need to include the following: your current unobligated balance, an explanation of why the project could not be finished before the grant period ended, a description of what will be taking place, and a description of the pending activities to be completed during the extended time, and how the grant funds will be utilized during the requested extension period. In terms of a GAN for change of project scope, prior approval is needed when making changes. When you want to alter program activities, affecting the purpose of the project, changing the project site, changing the population, or changing the subgrantee contractor. And this is really important when you do a budget modification GAN. A budget adjustment affects a cost category that was not included in the original budget. Changes to the indirect cost rate, and then the 10% rule is exceeded. That is, the proposed cumulative change is greater than 10% of the total award. This does not apply to an award of less than $100,000. And please note, when you're requesting a budget modification, this is like creating and reviewing a new budget from scratch. So you must attach to this GAN a revised budget as well as a revised budget narrative. And there's a link provided for more information on budget modifications. And as far as GANs for sole source, As an award recipient or subrecipient, you must document all procurement transactions in open, free, and fair competition. However, a sole source procurement process may be used when you can document the item or service is available only from a single source, a true public exigency or emergency exists, or after competitive solicitation, competition is considered inadequate. Prior approval is needed for all sole source procurements in the excess of $150,000. And there's a link provided addressing each of these items. And then there's the GAN for publication plan submission. All grantees and cooperative agreement recipients should begin submitting publications for review via GANs in GMS. You are to select Program Office Approval GAN and mark Publication Plan Submission or Other, and then attach your publication into the GAN modules. This applies to major publications such as evaluations or final reports. Announcements and press release do not apply. The grantee should explain their publication plan in the GAN explanation box or in an attachment. Thank you, and I will hand it off to Jennifer.
Thank you, Tracy. Again, this is Jennifer Lewis, State Policy Advisor, Second Chance, Western Region. I'm going to start with BJA compliance monitoring. BJA will monitor grant recipients to ensure they're doing what was proposed and approved, meeting programmatic, administrative, and financial requirements, identifying and resolving problems and/or issues, and receiving needed training and guidance. Comment audit findings. These are the most common audit findings of DOJ awards from fiscal year 2010. These findings are provided to make recipients aware of some areas to monitor closely in managing their award. Accounting procedures are not documented or needs improvement. Internal control procedures are not documented or needs improvement. Payroll procedures are not documented or needs improvement. There is no documentation supporting accounting transactions, journal entries, or costs. Inventory procedures are not documented or needs improvement. In continuation, recipient staff is not adequately trained in accounting principles or government accounting responsibilities. Cash has been drawn in excess of amounts needed for immediate disbursement. Financial or other program reporting requirements are not filed accurately or in a timely manner. The financial report amounts do not reconcile to the recipient's accounting system, and subrecipient monitoring is not being conducted. Grant closeout. We recommend recipients should start the closeout process as soon as the project is completed and all federal and matching funds, if applicable, have been spent. There are two types of closeouts. First is the standard closeout. This is submitted within 90 calendar days after the grant end date. All administrative, programmatic, and financial requirements have been met, and all expenses must be obligated by the last day of the project period. The second is administrative closeout. On the 91st day after the grant end date, GMS will automatically freeze funds, initiate an administrative closeout, and notify the grantee. The grantee is unwilling, non-compliant, or unable to complete the closeout requirements. Closeout notification. GMS will automatically notify the grantee 60 days prior to the end date, on the grant end date, and 30 days after the grant end date. Email notifications will be sent to the point of contact, the financial point of contact, and the authorizing official. So please make sure your contact information is current in GMS. Closeout components. There are 5 closeout components, starting with the final progress report. The report should include a synopsis, explaining the manner in which the grant funds were spent, indicate which program goals as established in your grant application were met, indicate that all grant-funded activities are complete, and inform if all funds are expended or if there are remaining funds. The next is the Final Financial Status Report, or SF-425, the Special Condition Compliance, Financial Reconciliation, and Programmatic Requirement Certifications. For additional information, we have provided the links below for our BJA main phone number, our BJA website. There's a list of all the Program Office State Policy Advisor contact lists. There's also a link that covers FAQs about BJA funding. Other important links include BJA Grant Writing Management Academy, Grant Payment Request System, GPRS User Guide, a link to grants.gov, the Grants Management System link, the GMS Training Tool, our Help Desk GMS number, and additional online resources include OJP Grants 101, OJP Funding Resource Center, and OJP Standard Forms and Instructions. Standard Forms. These are direct links to our Standard Forms for Indirect Cost Rate Agreement, Disclosure of Lobbying Activities, Accounting System and Financial Capability Questionnaire, and Standard Assurances. Here we have this slide that includes the BJA State Policy Advisor's direct contact information, including our emails and our telephone numbers. If you have any questions for the Program Office or Grants Management, please contact your State Policy Advisor directly. We will not be taking questions for this office during this webinar. And now I'll hand it off to Dr. Daniel Price to discuss PMT.
Thank you. This is Daniel Price. I'll be talking about the Performance Measurement Tool, otherwise known as the PMT. But before I do that, I just want to give you a brief overview of why we collect performance measures. Performance measures are strong indicators of the efficiency, effectiveness, and productivity of governmental agencies. Federal, state, and local governments have faced increasing pressure to improve the quality of programs provided to citizens and to measure the results of these services in quantifiable ways that demonstrate the judicious use of taxpayer dollars. The ability to accurately and consistently measure governmental agencies' performance has been a driving force behind the GPRA, or GPRA 1993, and also the follow-up to GPRA, which is GPRAMA 2010. Performance measures are generally defined as metrics used to quantify the efficiency and or effectiveness of a program. Effective performance measures are used to formulate budgets, allocate resources, motivate employees, improve services, and facilitate information exchange between citizens and government. For example, Congress needs performance measurement data to determine the effectiveness of taxpayer dollars allocated to different government programs, which underscores the importance of collecting measurable, quantifiable, and reliable data as a necessary component of program management. CSO's role in the management of grantees' data is to serve as a repository for the data submitted by grantees, which are then made available to program managers at the BJA. Now I'll talk about the PMT reporting schedule, which I think Anya talked briefly about that. So there are two types of data that are required from grantees. We have the program performance measures, and these are reported on a quarterly basis. The first quarter, January the 1st through March the 31st, and it's due by the end of April. So you have a 30-day grace period to report the data. And you do not upload this to the GMS. And then twice a year you have the narrative questions that are for the period April 1 to June 30th and due in the PMT July 30th. That you have to upload to the GMS. And so you have 4 performance measures reporting periods, and then you have 2 narrative reporting periods. So grantees are required to enter data for program performance measures in the PMT every 3 months. Like I said, you have 30 days to do that. And we encourage you very strongly to create a report for your own records, just in case you need to go back and look at something that you are not sure of. Now, for the semi-annual data, these are the narrative questions, and these represent activity for the previous 6 months. You must submit these data into the GMS. That's when you get into the PMT and you finalize your narrative report, you are able to upload that information into the GMS directly. The information is in the PMT. Now, for closeout, grantees are required to answer the narrative questions for the previous months of activity since the last report submission to the GMS. Finally, grantees are required to answer the court and criminal involvement questions for the entire grant period. Now, this subsection is in the questionnaire, which is also in the PMT. Basically, the PMT is just a virtual representation of the hard copy questionnaire. So we have a section called the court and criminal involvement, and those questions are to be answered for the entire grant period. You must submit a PMT final report to BJA as an attachment to the final progress report through the GMS. We'll now talk about the PMT step by step. So once you log in with your ID and password, you would find your profile, and when you do that, go to Information and Resources, look for your federal award number, and then go to the general award information. You'll find the very first question asking if this grant is operational. If the grant is operational, then it means one of several things: that you have active participants, that you have obligated, expended, and or drawn down funds with your Second Chance Act award. So once you select yes, the program becomes operational and will remain so until the grantee or you close out the award, or until there are no participants enrolled in the reentry program, or whichever of the 6 SCA programs that you are reporting data for at that particular time. For data entry, you put in the performance measures, and then if it's time to provide narrative responses, you do so, which, as we said earlier, you do twice a year. You then create a report. There is a user feedback form, and then if it's time for the GMS report, you do so. There are 6 SCA programs, and you probably know these already, but I'll just go over them very quickly. We have the co-occurring substance abuse program, we have the family-based program, we have the adult mentoring program, we have the reentry court program, we have the reentry demonstration program, and we have the technology careers program. Now, here I talk briefly about just one of them, the reentry demonstration. What you see on the next screen is basically just a summary of the subsections that are in the questionnaire. So we have the general award information, that's a subsection. There are several questions under that subsection. And then you have the participant level services provided. There are several questions under that subsection. You have program characteristics. There are several questions under that subsection, and so on and so forth. So these are the sections that are in the reentry demonstration version of the PMT. So you go in there, you provide responses to all of these questions. Of course, we are talking about aggregate data for program participants. And then there are 8 narrative questions, which are due, as we noted earlier, once every 6 months. Once you're done reporting your performance measures, you create a report. So if you want to add comments, you do so, and then you create a PDF version, and please save a copy to your computer and upload that to the GMS for the 6-monthly report or the 6-month report. Finally, we have a number of resources for you. We have an extremely qualified team of research assistants at CSR who would be more than happy to provide you information about anything that you need to know. You can always go to our website, bjaperformancetools.org, or you can call us 1-888-252-6867, or you can send us an email at bjapmt@csrincorporated.com. I'll hand the presentation back to Jan. Thank you.
So now we're going to open this up to the question and answers portion of the webinar. And as a friendly reminder, if you have any questions for your BJA state policy advisors or on grant management, please contact them directly. They will not be taking questions at this time. As another reminder, you can put in your questions on the right-hand side of your screen. And so far, we don't have any non-grant management questions, and so we may conclude this webinar. If you have any other questions that come to you after this, you have plenty of opportunities to reach out to any of us. This webinar will be posted online. You can check out all of the links, all of the email addresses that's there. You will, again, you will get an email. If you're registered for this webinar, you will get an email letting you know when it's posted to the National Reentry Resource Center, and those will be posted, the presentation will be posted early next week. So with that, I will just thank all of you for joining us for today's webinar. We really appreciate this. I hope there was a chock full of lots of great information. This webinar tends to be year after year a webinar that folks use as a resource, and I'm sure you will as well. If you have any questions, please let us know. After you exit the webinar, a brief web survey will appear on your screen, and by answering the questions on the survey, you'll be services that we offer. So we greatly appreciate it if you would take a few minutes to complete that survey. Take care. Thank you all. Bye.